Everything in the world is based around food. And where does all this food come from, you may ask? Well, from bees. Bees account for 1/3 of everything you put in your mouth, from the popcorn you're eating right now to the almonds in your trail mix. Regardless of whether or not it may seem like it, bees played a major role in getting that food into your hands. Oh yeah, and honey. You can thank the bees for that too. Although since 1979, there has been a noticeable decline in the world's population of bees. Overall, the population of hives in the United States has almost been cut in half, and it's only getting worse. Critics argue that the decline in bees is not noticeable or that it is not happening in the first place. Are they wrong? And if so, who or what is to blame for this epidemic? Let's find out.
Tasting much sweeter than wine.
I knew if I wanted to get down to the root cause of this epidemic, I couldn't do it on my own. So, I enlisted the help of multiple people in our community in order to reach a general consensus about this issue.
It's like a perfect storm of events. So, bees, one thing that's really changed in the United States in the past 15, 20 years is, and this has occurred over time, of course, as well, but our landscape has changed more than ever. So especially here in California, but other parts of the country as well, we've developed more land. We have more intense agricultural practices. If you drive through many agricultural areas in the Central Valley of California, for example, there's no flowers out at all.
And that's the problem. We've just been too focused with expanding our industry that we've begun to ignore what is at the core, our food systems. And it's almost ironic to think that bees account for billions of dollars in our economy, and yet we still neglect them. Since this is clearly such a problem, I wanted to see if the government was doing anything to really educate the people about it.
I have to give credit, we won't get into any politics, but I have to give credit to our former President Obama, who was very concerned with pollinators and actually created a pollinator research initiative. So that has resulted in a couple of different grant opportunities through the USDA, and he pushed the Department of Defense and other federal agencies to really make pollinator habitat protection and restoration a priority. So he was actually very good for pollinators.
Now that may be all good and true, but was this really enough to educate the people about this problem? I asked a few locals to find out what they knew.
Believe that the bees are being harmed. Their populations are going down dramatically. Well, they were at one point, and I think they're getting better, but yeah, overall trend is down, so bad sign.
Personally, I don't really have a specific stance on what's happening because, I mean, I'm not fully aware of what's happening to the bees. I know of certain things, like you said, colony collapse disorder, but I personally don't have any, drive to do anything about it.
Clearly our current efforts aren't enough to educate the people, but have we made any strides in the right direction?
We here in the district have what's called the IPM program. The IPM program that doesn't allow us to a certain degree to kill insects or use pesticides. That's why we, especially with bees, pollinizers, they're protected to a certain level. They are pollinizing most of the food that we eat, so we need to protect them. And in the school district, we have what is called a bee trap at every site. And instead of being reactive, we are proactive. So every site has a bee trap that will attract the swarm, and once we get it, we call our beekeeper to take him to a better place than a school where staff and children can be at risk.
Current legislation has allowed us to take one step in the right direction, but we still have a ways to go. Is there something people can do on an individual level?
So what everyday people can do, there are several things that people can do. Of course, lobbying your state and federal representatives is a very good idea, for sure, making sure that they're aware of this issue and bring that issue to their representative government bodies as well. But you can do stuff at home as well. You can plant pollinator-friendly gardens, I always direct people to the Xerces Society, XERCES, which is an insect conservation society that has a great website with suggested plantings for different parts of the country, for pollinator-friendly gardens, for example. So if the main problem is pollinator habitat, we can fix that by planting pollinator gardens at your schools, at your churches, at community gardens, at your own house, and we need to think about ways that we can do industrial scale agriculture in a way that is pollinator friendly. So phasing out some of those chemicals that are harder on pollinators. The way that we do agriculture now, we have to.
It may be a tough road ahead, but it is not too late to prevent a complete collapse in the bee population. As long as we make the effort, we will always have those friendly buddies we call bees.
What you got is fun.